Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I'm always talking about how I want Christians in the arts, so time to start talking about some Christian art and comics. I got this from Amazon. It was $3.99 with free shipping with Amazon Prime, so good price point. I think $3.99 is expensive for a floppy comic, but that is competitive with Marvel and DC, and the quality. So this is from Kingstone Comics. They say their tagline is quality Christian comics, and they live up to that. This is at the level of Marvel and DC comics, probably better than some Marvel comics I've seen in the past couple of years. So let's take a look at the team. The writer's Ben Avery. The editor is Kelly Aris. Pencilers are Mike Lilly and Geoff Isherwood, and inkers are Jeff Hewitt and Joseph Rubenstein. So there are a couple things I look for in comics art. One is illustration quality, characters, poses, expressions. I thought this did a good job at that, good job at backgrounds and details. And then composition. And composition was one of the strengths of this comic, where they actually care about, having little panels for little actions, and then later, I'll show you the animals getting on the ark, because that's kind of like the big moment. When they'll have a big moment, they'll make sure to zoom out and show you all the animals stretching across the page, right? Like that, they make the big awesome moment feel big and awesome. They also have some clever panels later on the ark where they're just doing some neat things with just like cutting away from the ark to the exterior to the interior. So it does a really good job of keeping the composition varied and interesting. One thing I don't like is I've never liked black borders around boxes, because I think it always makes everything look really dense. But this was made in 2014, and that was kind of like a trend throughout the 2010s. So I didn't mind it. Like the quality of the art, I think made it nice. I want to comment really quickly on, this is just going to be like a little short review, so let me comment really quickly on their adaptation of the story. So one of the issues you run into with comic adaptations is, do you go literal and just like follow the text, or do you try to like adapt it into the comics format in some way? Which I know for some Christians it can be like almost like sacrilegious to make changes or edits to the Bible. My thought on that is, if you're going to adapt the Bible into another format, you do have to consider the new format you're adapting it into. So I kind of look at it like movie adaptations of books. Like I always prefer the original book if you can read it, but if you're going to make a movie out of the book, make a movie. It can't just be like word for word reading the book on a TV screen, right? So the way they decided to go is to personify the characters and kind of add some sort of like little human details. So it's almost like asking, what would it be like if you were one of Noah's sons, and then just sort of show like their emotions and their problems as they go to get supplies and everybody's making fun of them. And I actually kind of like that solution to the problem of how the heck do you adapt these stories, because it basically tries to like approach the thing that would be most interesting, is trying to connect with these characters as human beings. So what gives the Bible stories their impact is just how densely packed there are. Like there's so much emotion and ideas packed into every sentence, because they're almost like very short forms of stories. And so expanding this out, this means like, one or two verses is basically stretched out to a page or a couple pages. But I think it works. You feel for these kids. Jumping ahead, you might want to read this to sort of like think through. I thought they did a good job also kind of like highlighting the key theological issues. So they didn't talk about like the sons of God or any of that weird stuff. They basically just show you the sinfulness of humanity, but they have Noah's sons tell the story of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel to the crowds of sinners, and they're mocked and rejected for doing that. I also like that they kind of dealt with the humanness of like how terrifying it would be to be trapped outside the ark. They don't shy away from that. And they kind of delve into sort of like the human emotion of like feeling trapped on the ark and wondering if you're going to get out, and having to basically trust God to get you out of this fix. I think they just quote the Bible for God's words to Noah when he gives him the Noahic covenant, the rainbow in the sky, be fruitful and multiply, right? So that they kind of like, they didn't futz around with God's words too much, but for the human parts of the story, they do try to like expand it and kind of, I don't know, maybe help you feel like what it would have been like to be in Noah's family. I'll show you like one example of adaptation. So after Noah survives, he gets drunk and falls naked, and Ham comes and sees him in his nakedness, and then runs off to Shem and Japheth to tell them, hey, come and see, right? So in this, Noah wakes up and curses Ham, and then his wife tells him, well, you were the one who got drunk. Now, that's not in the Bible, but it's also true that Noah did get drunk and collapse naked on the ground, right? So the Bible is actually showing you a aspect of how Noah, although he's this righteous man, still has these failings, still got drunk, right? Like, he's a sinful human being too. But their way of dealing with that is to have a character express that idea in conversation. I don't mind that. It is a departure from the Bible, so I would say this is a good use. I think this would be good for Christian families who don't just give your kids things to read, but you kind of converse with them, because kids will have questions about this. Oh, well, why is it different? Well, they when they make the comic book, they decided to add some things, decided to change some things up. Why do you think they added that, right? I think it'd be a nice little conversation starter, and it's definitely a really quality work of art. And I appreciated seeing the emphasis on the covenant and sort of the significance of what Noah's story means being included in the text itself. And I'm really impressed by the art quality. So $3.99, well spent. I'll keep building my Christian comics library, and I'll let you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would recommend this for Christian families and Sunday schools. I think that the most important thing for me in comics is, do not give me crappy art in a Christian comic and expect me to buy it just because it's Christian. Quality art. Mwah. Que bella. I love it. I think kids who like comic books they'll feel like they're being respected when you give them comic books that actually have good art in it. So that's my review. Love you guys. Catch you later.